Like every single day I want to quit my job and everything, and I feel that it's not worth it. But most of the time something magical happens every single day, like a thank you letter or an orphanage that calls and says thank you for the food supplies, or a producer who is very happy working with us. So something magical happens, and every time I focus again on my mission and my wish for the future. So I think this confession cannot be found online.
Bonjour, and welcome to Mission First, the podcast to get inspired and to learn from successful entrepreneurs who are building a sustainable future for our planet and its people. I am Gilles Toussaint, your host and the founder of GT Impact, a growth and digital marketing agency working only with companies making a positive difference in this world. Lots of us dream of having a real positive impact on the society, but it's easier said than done. Are you dreaming of starting your non-profit organization, but you don't know where to start? Or maybe you started it, but it turns out that growing it and funding it is more complex than you thought. Well, this episode might have the answers you need to start and grow your non-profit organization. I'm really excited to talk to Melina Taprantzi, the founder of Wise Greece, a social entrepreneurship pioneer and non-profit organization. Wise Greece has a double mission. They support small Greek food producers by promoting top-quality Greek products, through the sales of which they raise money and buy food in order to donate it to the people in need. They cooperate with more than 100 producers, selling more than 2,500 of their products, and they have distributed more than 50 tons of food to orphanages and soup kitchens across the country. Melina recently won an award from the United Nations, which recognizes her as one of the 7 women worldwide whose activity significantly contributes to the achievement of the Global Sustainable Development Goals 2030. She prepared a list of do's and don'ts about how to build a social enterprise. We are going to go through that list in this episode, so be ready to learn from a very inspiring and very impactful entrepreneur. One small comment before we dig into this episode. This podcast is like a masterclass, with long episodes where we talk in detail about the challenges and learnings of every guest. But if your time is limited and you still want to get advice about growing your business and having a greater positive impact on this planet, I've just created a best-of series with a special format. 10 audio episodes between 3 to 10 minutes, shorter than a coffee break. They are only hands-on advice shared by the guests of this podcast. You can receive these best-of episodes by signing up for my newsletter, in which I also send a text summary of the do's and don'ts shared by each guest after every episode. So if you want to get these condensed and useful tips for and from successful entrepreneurs with a sustainable mission, just go to my website, gtimpact.com, or find the link in the description of this episode and sign up for the newsletter. Melina, thank you very much for being with us today. How are you?
Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm great. How about you?
I'm good. As I said, got my first vaccine of Corona yesterday, so I'm a bit tired, but that's okay. Let's start with the mission and basically what you're doing with the company. I've tried to describe it a bit, but can you add a few words about exactly what you are doing?
Sure. Wise Greece is a social enterprise with a double mission. On the one hand, we support the small food producers in Greece to sell and export their products, while at the same time we manage to donate food supplies to orphanages, to soup kitchens, to families, to refugees in need in our country. So in a way, we manage to support, the backbone of the Greek economy, the small family-owned businesses, while at the same time we manage to provide food supplies and high-quality food supplies to people living under the poverty line here in Greece.
That's 2 fantastic missions. I want to go back to these 2 missions and how you started and how you basically chose to go for these ones. Just to briefly talk about the size and the company stage right now. So how many employees do you have right now? I know you have a difference between employees and volunteers. How big is the company now?
Sure. We are a very small and adaptable team. We're a team of 8 people. And this is the most common story in social entrepreneurship. And we have more than 60 or 80 volunteers right now supporting our mission. They visit orphanages with us, they organize events with us, but the core team is a team of 8 people. So it all started back in 2013 when, I'm pretty sure you remember, Greece faced the worst financial crisis in its modern history. And there's an interesting story there because I used to work in advertising agencies. I come from the corporate world. And one day I decided to visit a social grocery, which is a place where people living under the poverty line go in order to get food supplies, mostly, and maybe some clothes or, other items that they need. And of course, they get them for free. And as I said, it was a really, really difficult time back then in Greece. And I went there just to leave a few clothes that I didn't need. And I saw that people there had only razors to give to the people in need. And it was shocking, as you can understand, because I asked them, people come here to get food supplies. This is what they need. This is the most essential thing that, they have to have. And you give them razors, and they said, this is the only donation that we have. So this is the only thing that we can provide to those people. So after this shocking incident, I started thinking there must be another way. There must be a way of doing well by doing good and vice versa. So this is how Wise Greece was born, in order to support the Greek economy, which was facing severe problems back then, and support people in need with the most essential food supplies that they need in order to survive.
Let's talk about how you started that, the first steps you do after, you had this revelation or shocking experience. How, in terms of revenue, can you say if you are like a 6-digit, 7-digit revenue per year right now that you have with the company?
It's a 7-digit revenue per year. And after 8 years, we've managed to build the concept of Wise Greece, but the concept of social entrepreneurship in Greece as well, because it was completely unknown back then.
So when you realized this huge issue about the food donations and the food demand from the poorest people in the country, and God knows how many there were at the time, and it's a huge issue still now, what are the first steps? How did you come up with that, business model? Because you have a lot of ways to solve, or to at least to try to solve that problem. So what were the first steps?
Okay, so first of all, when I did my research back then, I saw that 3 million Greeks were living under the European poverty line. So for those who don't know, this is 30% of the Greek population. It's a huge number. And unfortunately, it still is due to the COVID crisis, of course, that we are all now facing. So the first steps, to be honest, people think that social entrepreneurs have this revelation or shocking experience and then they really know what to do. No, I didn't. And to be honest, I didn't really know what social entrepreneurship was. I didn't really know the concept. I didn't know the term. I didn't know that social entrepreneurship existed. As I said, I come from a corporate background, so I didn't really know this combination of entrepreneurship and social impact. So the only thing that I did is that I started noticing that a lot of producers were producing amazing products, but they didn't really know how to promote them, how to sell them, how to export the products. Some of them don't even speak English, so it was really hard for them to export the products. So I just tried to combine those two facts and see how this would go. Most of the times you feel like you are blind and you are just looking for something and you don't really know if it exists. So I just, took some first steps and I said, okay, let's try this model and see if it's going to work. And to be honest, the first step was to start calling a lot of producers in Greece and trying to convince them that this model that I have in mind will actually work for them and will be beneficial for them. And it took me, I think, 8 months or so to convince the first producer. It was really hard because, as I said, it was back then the situation was really difficult. Nobody really was in the mood to listen, to something new and trust a young woman. So it was really, really difficult to convince the first producers. And after that, I think it took me like a year or so to start believing in this concept myself. I mean, even though I was trying to convince others, I had to convince myself as well.
How were you doing at that time to fund that part? Was it something you were doing on the side of your job?
Exactly, yes. I was working in an advertising agency, and at the same time, I was trying to build this project.
And how long was that period before you were able to, validate the model and then start the company officially?
I think it was about 1 year and a half when I managed to validate the model, to get the necessary knowledge and get some producers on board and, have something to start with. And then I made this transition into the social entrepreneurship world.
To incorporating, basically starting
Yes.
the company officially. Were you alone when you started, or were you already working with other people that became, the co-founders of the company? Or did you start to hire only when you started to basically launch the company?
No, I have a co-founder. He used to work with me in this advertising agency, so he trusted the model from the very beginning. We founded this social business together.
It'd be so tempting to just go step by step to see everything you've done, but you sent me a very great list of do's and don'ts that I'd like to go through, because these are really hands-on advice for all the entrepreneurs who are listening to us. So thank you very much for that. Let's start with the first advice. You said start from the social problem. Can you iterate on that?
Sure. So after so many years, of building the concept of social entrepreneurship in Greece, along with a few other social entrepreneurs in my country, I was lucky enough to be a mentor to a lot of future social entrepreneurs. And what I noticed is that social entrepreneurship as a concept became really sexy at some point. I mean, it was really interesting for a lot of people to become social entrepreneurs. But what they thought is that they will become millionaires by being philanthropists or something, by helping others, which is not the case. So I noticed that they started building their business model and they used to put the profit in the middle, when it's right the opposite. When you want to become a social entrepreneur, you need to put the social impact, the social problem in the middle that you want to hopefully provide an active solution to it. So what you do is that you notice that there is a social problem and then you build a business plan around it. And this is what makes you, in a way, a social entrepreneur. If you do the opposite thing, then you have a for-profit business that puts profit in the middle, and whatever you do in terms of the impact is a corporate social responsibility. It doesn't make you a social entrepreneur. So every decision that you make has to be based on the fact that you need to maximize your social impact. So the first do is when you want to build a social business, focus on the social problem that you want to solve.
Question I have, if your goal then is to build it around, maximizing your social impact, what are the KPIs? Like a typical company would have revenue as a KPI or the yearly objective. How do you measure your impacts on your side, and what is your social North Star KPI?
Well, there are a lot of ways to measure your impact. Some are direct and some are indirect. For instance, it's easy for us to measure how many tons of food we provided to people in need. You talked about 50. The last time we discussed, the two of us, that was the actual number. Today it's 90 tons of food, because we launched a new project and we managed to provide more food supplies to people in need. I have to mention here that we're talking about high quality food supplies, not expired products, not whatever we found and cheap food supplies. I'm talking about extra virgin olive oil and honey and meat and protein and things that especially children need in order to grow without health problems in the future. But at the same time, we measure, how many producers we supported or how many people were hired because of our activities. So there are a lot of KPIs that you can use in order to measure your impact as a social business.
You're talking about the tons of food you are delivering and that it's premium quality food. How do you choose the food? Where do you buy it and how do you deliver it?
So we buy the products from the same producers that we support. So in a way, we support them twice. And on the other hand, we managed to get a very good price for them since we are buying the food at the wholesale price. And we have a list with pretty much every foundation and orphanage and soup kitchen that exists in Greece. And we talk to them regularly and we monitor their needs. So some of them might need lentils, others might need pasta or sweets or olive oil or whatever. So we buy the food supplies from our producers and we deliver them to the foundations.
And how do you monitor their needs?
Yeah, we have a direct contact with them. They send us emails and requests. We call them before every donation and we say, has anything changed? Do you need something else? We are in a direct communication with them.
So the second do you sent me was focus on how to maximize the social impact in every step you take.
Exactly. I think it's pretty much an extension of the first point, is that as a social entrepreneur, you might need to make some decisions that will not benefit the for-profit side of your business, but will benefit more, let's say, the non-profit side of your business, which means that you might hire people who come from a disadvantaged background, who are maybe disabled or who are refugees and they don't speak the same language as you. So you make this decision, you focus on supporting those people more, even though you know that they are not going to be as productive as others, let's say. But still, you choose to support those people in order to maximize your social impact. And another point is that when you focus on a social problem, let's say we want to support people who don't have enough food supplies, right? If tomorrow magically those people have access to the food supplies that they need, this means that I'm out of business, right? As a social entrepreneur, I'm out of business. I have to find another job, because if I solve the social problem, then I'm not longer needed. So every serious social entrepreneur knows that, is ready to be out of business whenever the social problem does not exist. And this is not the case with the typical businesses or the startups or any other type of business out there.
The dream would be to solve that problem, of course, but I'm sure with the impact that you have with that, if that problem would be solved, you'll find a way to do something else.
Sure.
The third one was build a model that is financially and socially sustainable at the same time.
Yes, another issue that I keep on facing with social entrepreneurs is that they focus so much on the social impact that they don't create a financially sustainable model. This means that you do need to have a revenue, you do need to have a profit. Profit is not a bad thing, because there is this myth, that social entrepreneurs are philanthropists, or they are people who have a lot of money somewhere and they are, they just play around with their business. And this is not the case. We are talking about a regular business that puts social impact on the forefront. So you do need to build a business model like any other regular business that has revenue and maybe multiple revenue streams, which is the best scenario, in order to survive. Because if you don't survive as a business, then you will not be able to provide any kind of solution to the problem, the social problem that you're aiming. So it works both ways. You have to be a businessman or a businesswoman and a philanthropist at the same time.
very good point that I hear from people in the solar industry. Whatever the industry you build, in any case, if you want it to be successful, if you want it to have an impact, you need to be able to make money. Whatever you decide to reinvest it in something else, the way you do, it's a different story, but you won't be able to grow if you don't have a good revenue stream, a good revenue income. So to talk about your business model, actually, are you taking a commission on the product you are selling for the producers?
Yes, we get a discount from the producers, which is the margin that we have in order to be able to cover our daily expenses and, of course, provide food supplies to people in need.
And logistic-wise, are you buying, let's say, 1,000 jars of honey that you are selling, and if they are not sold, basically it's your responsibility, you've bought them and that's over?
No, we don't buy, let's say, an amount of every product, because as you can understand, we have 2,500 products. It would be impossible to predict each time what kind of quantity we're going to need. We order when we have the order from the final stores or companies who buy our products, and we get a profit whenever we sell those products.
Okay, because that's what I read on your website. So you have like shops, cafe owners, people who want to basically sell some of your products, just in that case build a corner with Wise Grease on it, Wise Grease products, and so in that case they order the products they want among your different like product categories, and then they sell it, and when they sell it you get the profit.
Now, when we sell the products, we get the profit. So we sell to the final stores, but they have the products and they sell them at a retail price. And we work with coffee shops, with deli shops, with supermarkets. I mean, we have a huge range of stores that sell our products right now.
I read, drifting a little bit, I read on one of your posts or one of your videos, I think that one of the hardest thing you had was to gain the producer's trust at the beginning. Was it the hardest part of all the first years?
So in a way, it is really good when you are a pioneer because you can build the path. But at the same time, it is really difficult because you're all alone. You don't have lawyers, accountants, mentors, nobody who is able to help you. So I think I just overcame these difficulties just because I said, just give it a go. I mean, give it a try. You don't have anything to lose, honestly. You have your job. I mean, you can pay your rent. It doesn't mean that you need to abandon everything and just follow your dream. Just give it a try. I didn't really have a deadline, to be honest. I mean, I didn't really have a date, and I said that, I will work for this project until then. I just did it. And I think that when you just take one step at a time and you do something every single day in order to build a new project, then suddenly all the pieces come together and it works magically.
It seems like you found the right business model and the right concept from the beginning on, even though it took you a while to implement it and to build the trust with the producers. Do you have any examples of things you've done that didn't work?
Oh, a lot of things didn't work, and still, every day you learn things that you never knew about. The first thing is that I was really excited about this idea, and I thought that I would send a presentation, a pitch deck or something, and people would just love it from the very beginning and they would follow it. So this doesn't work. I think that nothing will be better than personal communication. I mean, people need to see your face, they need to hear your voice in order to trust you. The other thing is that I thought, that the state or the government or, I don't know, the municipalities or whatever, they would support this project just because it supports it supports Greece. It supports people in need. So in a way, we are doing part of their job, right? And I thought that they would be really supportive at the beginning, but they were not, just because I think that they support projects when they see that they can actually work. Another thing is that it's really difficult to find people to work with you and to keep them, motivated all the time. Because as I said, we're not like a regular business that cares only about profit and has a really strict structure and so on and so forth. We are a family that works together. We do most of the things together. We do have some job descriptions, but still it's blurry and it has to be. Otherwise, you cannot be adaptable and agile. And it's really hard to keep people motivated, and especially volunteers. Most of the times, volunteers are really happy to, for instance, to support your project, and they want to visit an orphanage with you, let's say. But when they do, and they see the children there facing, let's say, the problem of malnutrition, or not having enough food supplies or enough toys or, I don't know, beds or doors. I mean, we've seen amazing things, unfortunately. Then they are shocked and they don't want to come back. So you lose the volunteers in a way. So it's really difficult to keep people, I think, motivated and to be able to serve your social impact and your business model at the same time.
It's a very interesting thing you're saying here, so about the volunteers, because it's hard to keep them motivated, especially on the long term, I guess. Have you figured out something that works better than something else? What would you advise to do in order to motivate the volunteers best?
What I didn't do at the beginning, and I found it that it's very good, is that you can do some screening. I mean, you need to talk to your volunteers first, because at the beginning we just sent a form. We wanted them to ask a few questions, and that's it. So we had their, mobile phone and their email and their interests, and that's it pretty much. But now we organize interviews with them. We understand what kind of people they are, what they are interested in, what they want to do, what they can and what they cannot do. And we describe sometimes a few shocking experiences that we've been through and see how they react. So if they say, it's fine, I'm really motivated, I don't care that I'm going to be sad when I leave the orphanage because I will see some shocking images, then we give it a try. If we see that they want to support us in a more, let's say, logistics position or in an event or, I don't know, something more administrative, then we suggest that this is the right job for them.
Meaning in that case, to do a more administrative job in your company or to do something else?
Yes,
okay.
to do a more administrative job in our company and support us in this way. Because, it's not, when you support a social enterprise or a social mission in general, you do have a lot of administrative jobs that you need to do, and they are crucial and really important. It's not only the heroes who, let's say, save the refugees from drowning. There are a lot of volunteers behind that who do an amazing job. And most of the times they don't understand that they are really important and really their job is really crucial, but it is, trust me.
To do something successfully, you need a backbone behind it. And usually the people who are in this part are usually not recognized enough for their work. So the fourth do that you sent me, which is focus on the 4 P's of social entrepreneurship: people, planet, passion, profit.
Yes. I think the most important element, first of all, of social enterprise, and maybe the most important element of every business out there, which is small and adaptable, is people. Because without them, you cannot really go anywhere. You cannot do anything. And as I said, it's the most difficult part to keep the employees or the volunteers motivated. But if you focus on that and really listen to them and really work with them, then you will be able to have a strong and adaptable team. And I keep on using the word adaptable because I think that what we learned from COVID is exactly that small teams survive more easily just because they are adaptable. And you see that a lot of big companies, they face huge problems just because they don't have the real support of their people. The second P is planet, of course. I mean, without our planet, we won't be able to do anything. We do support people with food supplies. This is our main job. But at the same time, every decision that we make comes through the filter of, are we supporting our planet? Are we saving our planet? Are we doing any harm to our planet? So yes, without the planet, there won't be any kind of business out there in the future. Passion is really important because as a social entrepreneur, yes, you are trying to solve a social problem, so you need to be passionate about it. Otherwise, you won't be able to do it. And as I said, profit, because a lot of social enterprises, they think that profit is a bad thing. Profit is something that only the big multinational companies should care about. But trust me, you need to care about profit as a social entrepreneur as well.
I'd like to talk about the next one because you actually mentioned it already a bit here. You said, no, be open, transparent, and adaptable. Can you iterate a bit on that? And especially when you said you want to keep a smaller team is more adaptable, is that a wish from you? It doesn't matter how much revenue you make, you want to keep the team at that size, that you won't grow it like further?
Well, that's the biggest challenge, to be honest, because you do need people. You do need to have more employees and volunteers in order to support all of your projects. But at the same time, you don't want to build this bureaucratic structure where people, focus more on reporting rather than doing. So it's a really huge challenge. I don't really have the answers. I will try to keep the team as small as possible, but still we need to grow as we grow, not only our revenue, but our social impact as well. In terms of adaptability, I will give you a really quick example of what we did after COVID. So when COVID hit Greece, you can understand a pretty hard situation, and all of the food entrepreneurs in our country and the producers were facing huge problems because they couldn't sell their products. They couldn't export their products. We didn't have any kind of tourism and tourists to buy our products. It was really, really difficult for us. So at the same time, all of the foundations in Greece were desperate for food supplies because most of the donations coming from the state or the companies or even from individuals, they were headed towards the health sector, which was, something that we all expected. So what we did is that we designed a project which is called Hope Boxes, and we managed to collaborate with big multinational companies which supported this project, and we managed to support the food entrepreneurs and the foundations that received the Hope Boxes with food supplies. And if I'm not mistaken, right now, after this project alone supported the foundations with around 20 tons of food to people in needs, just because we managed to build this project really fast, and we managed to support the small family-owned businesses as well, who were once again facing financial problems. So this small example is something that unfortunately we couldn't do if we were like a huge corporation with 100 employees, and we had to report and redesign everything and do some research and so on and so forth. This is why social businesses tend to be small and adaptable.
To dig into that examples, I saw these like Hope Boxes on your website, for example, a partnership with, I think, Deloitte. So the companies can basically sponsor these boxes and then give them away to organizations they want.
I mean, with Deloitte, for instance, every employee had one Hope Box, and he or she decided which foundation will receive this Hope Box. Domino's Pizza, for instance, the consumers donated just a small amount in order for us to buy, with every order, they could donate one small amount in order for us to buy Hope Boxes for orphanages. So it depends.
Talking about the adaptability, for example, if you decide to focus on these projects, how did you manage to basically add another project to your team? So have you put some stuff aside for a couple of months, or?
Yes, you have to. To be honest, 2020 was the first year that everything was very well designed, very well planned. We knew what we were about to do, and suddenly everything was destroyed. So yes, we had other projects in mind, bigger projects in a way, and not projects that focus on immediate relief. But when you have to face this huge crisis, this is what you do as a social entrepreneur. You need to provide solutions to any type of crisis that comes across. So we had to redesign our strategy for 2020 and 2021, unfortunately. But at the same time, it was a great opportunity for all of us to, test ourselves, to see how adaptable we can be, to see how creative we can be, and how we can, put our skills into a test. So it was a great opportunity at the same time.
We talked extensively now about the adaptable part. What do you mean? Can you iterate a bit about the be open and transparent part in this advice?
Sure. If you're a startupper, if you run any type of business, then you don't really have to be open and transparent. I mean, you don't have to. If you want to, it's great, but you don't have to. You shouldn't reveal whatever you do, or you shouldn't even publish any type of report. As a social entrepreneur, or as an NGO, you need to publish some social impact reports. You need to be really open about what you do. You really need to design projects like the hope boxes that I mentioned, where they are completely transparent. For instance, the consumers know that they gave away a tiny amount, like 50 euro cents, but they know that this amount was gathered, and those hope boxes were delivered to this foundation. So every single step that you take, it needs to be transparent, and you need to be able to prove all the time, especially in Greece, where unfortunately the NGOs or the social sector in general doesn't have a very good reputation. You need to be very transparent and very honest about how you make money and what you do with your profit.
That's for all the do's you sent me. And then about the don't advices. The first one was don't build your model around profit. We discussed that already. And second, very important one, I guess, is don't use social impact as a marketing tool.
Yeah, that's a common trap. As I mentioned, there is a lot of social washing in a way. Everybody wants to be a saint. It's a really difficult path. You need to prove your social impact and your lasting social impact. Giving away a few tons of food doesn't make you a social entrepreneur. Every decision that you make makes you a social entrepreneur. So if you think that you are going to build a business and you are going to just give away a few tons of food, or I don't know, provide a few educational courses for free to people in need, and this will qualify you as a social to become a social entrepreneur, then you're mistaken. So right now, in this era that we are all living in, people, especially with the use of internet, they can not only identify who says what, but they need to feel connected with your brand or your company, and they need to feel aligned with your values. So this is why you need to be honest and transparent all the time, because if you're not serious about those values and you just use them as a marketing tool, then people will notice, and you will get, from hero to zero in no time. You need people who will support what you believe in, and they will believe it as well, and they will be part of that, and they will want to support you any way they can, even if that means that they will never ever buy your service or your products. So you need to be okay with that. You need to be frank with the people, and especially your customers, and you need to convince them first that you mean what you say, that you are honest, and you can look them in the eyes, and they can trust you, and then they will buy your products. Because most of the times in social businesses, they will buy the products just because they feel that they help someone in need. Not just because they love the product. It's a different kind of relationship. So afterwards, okay, if they keep on buying your products, of course they have to like your products and they have to support the products for the products. But at the beginning, they focus on your social mission and they need to be convinced that you are honest and open with them.
I wanted to ask you, what are the different growth channels that you've used to grow, to make people more aware of your company? Because you're selling, is it a B2B2C company? Who is your customer?
We are both. We're B2B and B2C because we do have a few Wise Grace stores now, and so we managed to have the final customers and talk to them and meet them. But at the beginning, we used to be only B2B, so our customer was the store owner.
Leaving aside the B2C part with your new stores, what are the channels that you've used mostly to grow and to find more shops as customers?
So first of all, we started, communicating with buyers and with importers and with stores directly. We do have an excellent communication with stores and we need to keep this communication alive. We don't always necessarily need a buyer, in between. We had a lot of media coverage. We didn't pay, of course, any of it because, this story is interesting for the journalists, so they invited us for an interview or they hosted an article for us. And especially after this award that we got from the United Nations and the World Bank, we got a lot of media attention. So this always brings new customers, new partners, new buyers, and so on and so forth. We are also consistent with our communication on our social media platforms. We keep on posting our news, our donations, and new products. We have a lot of newsletters that people, they get, and according to their interests, of course. We have a lot of recipes and everything to keep people interested in our mission and in our products. And this is how we grow step by step.
Like organic PR, media coverage, and then email marketing for the people who are basically, and social media who are already your followers. Talking about the funding, you said you had no investors, but you told me you have a hybrid model of funding with different revenue streams.
Yes, as a social enterprise, the good thing is that you can have this hybrid funding, different revenue streams, like, for instance, we can sell our products, or you can sell services, or you can sell your products in various stores, or you can work with companies and sell the products as corporate gifts. You can design CSR programs for big companies and get funding. You can work with foundations and accept grants. So this is not the case most of the times with typical businesses or startups, because they tend to have one or two revenue streams and that's it. As a social business, you can have multiple revenue streams, and this is a perfect scenario, especially when you have to face a crisis like the COVID crisis, when everything changes. So you might need to shift and choose another path. So this means that you will get funding from a different channel.
If you have to look at the proportion of the different revenue, like the revenue you make from the products you're selling versus the other revenue, like funds and grants, what is roughly the proportion?
I would say it would be around 70% coming from selling the products and 30% from other activities.
Confirming your statement that you actually need to have a profitable revenue model in order to survive, and all the grants are things that are nice to add at the top.
But you cannot count on them. It's something extra, but you cannot count on them as a business model.
Good. One question I had about expanding teams, and you said you try to start offering your products abroad as well. So interested to see the model from Sea Shepherd and Captain Watson, to see that, as an NGO, we discussed that in detail as well, that they actually have they internationalize their company by having different entities that are starting abroad, like a franchise, but all of them are working kind of independently. They said like they don't report to each other, so they avoid, Sea Shepherd is a bit like you. He also like said, they put their money into operations. They don't put money into administrative things and reporting. So I was thinking, is that something you are like right now considering, for example, internationalizing, or how is it going right now, the beginning of the internationalization for you?
Yes, pretty much this is the model. I mean, we designed this social franchise model where the beneficiaries of the stores, of the Wise Grace stores that we are going to open, will be also the entrepreneurs at the same time. So you have a double mission in a way. This can work both in Greece and abroad. And at the same time, we are currently in discussions to establish, Wise as a legal entity in other countries as well. So we are going to support, let's say, the Italian producers, the French producers, just examples, of course. And we are going to implement pretty much the same model in other countries as well.
And in that case, are you going to have a different team?
Yes.
Starting in the other country? Let's finish with the usual questions that I ask all my guests, and I love to ask. First one is, what is the best advice you've been given as an entrepreneur?
Oh, I think those are the most difficult questions. The best advice, I think that it is a really wise woman that I met about 10 years ago, and she's a really strong entrepreneur, not a social entrepreneur, a typical entrepreneur. She said, you know what, and I'm trying to translate it from Greek now, is stop being afraid of fear. Because most of the times, we're not afraid that something specific might happen, but we hate this feeling of fear, It's not only the fear of failure, it's just we don't like to be afraid. We don't like the concept of fear. So if you identify this and you say, you know what, okay, I know that I don't really like fear, being afraid. Nobody really likes that, but it's fine. So just keep on moving and we'll see how it goes. Then something good might come up. So I think this is the best advice, which is pretty simple, but at the same time, it's, pretty efficient.
So recognizing it as a principle also of, Vipassana meditation, as soon as you acknowledge the feeling you have inside you, it comes and goes.
Yeah.
Very good one. Thank you. Which book would you recommend entrepreneurs like you to read? One of your favorite books or one of the last books that you've read that you really like?
I think that whoever wants to learn more about social entrepreneurship should read the books of Mohamed Yunus. He is one of the most famous social entrepreneurs. He is the father of the concept of microfinance. He supported millions and millions of people in Bangladesh to get out of poverty. And of course, he won a Nobel Prize. So I think that all his books, he only writes about social entrepreneurship. So all his books are pretty interesting for whoever wants to become a social entrepreneur.
What training, podcasts, blogs, or influencers you follow or you recommend to follow as an entrepreneur?
I really like Malcolm Gladwell. I really like his podcast. So,
tell us one thing. That's the final question. Tell us one thing about you that I wouldn't be able to find out online.
One thing. Well, as I said, I'm pretty open and transparent, so pretty much everything is online. That's something I think that a personal confession is that most of the times I want to quit. Like every single day I want to quit my job and everything, and I feel that it's not worth it. But most of the time something magical happens every single day, like a thank you letter or an orphanage that calls and says thank you for the food supplies, or a producer who is very happy working with us. So something magical happens, and every time I focus again on my mission and my wish for the future. So I think this confession cannot be found online.
Thank you. I think that's very inspiring to have someone like you being vulnerable and showing that, because with a company like yours, with the mission you have and the impact you have, I'm like, how can you be unsure about the impact you have? How can you think about not being motivated? I think for lots of entrepreneurs out there, that's good to hear.
I think that every successful person that I met in my life, they do have so many doubts, and they feel that they could do something better and faster and more efficient. But that's the way life is for the entrepreneurs. They keep on having doubts about everything. It's okay to be vulnerable.
Thank you. So this is your time, the final words. It's your time to share whatever you want with our audience.
Yeah, we are really open. We always want to meet new people because, as I said, the most important is not B2B or B2C, is age to age, human to human. So this human to human connection is really important for us, and this is how we managed to grow Wise Greece and actually follow this path. Whoever wants to learn more about Wise Greece or support us or whatever, we are all ears. We are in a listening mode. So please contact us or me personally, and we'll be happy to meet you.
Thank you very much for all your advice today and for your inspiring mission. So keep on going, and all the best.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
If you like this podcast, there are 2 things you can do that would mean the world to me. The first thing is to sign up for the podcast newsletter. That way you will be notified of the new episodes, but you will also get a summary of the learnings at the end of every season. Plus, for each episode, you will get the resources and the list of do's and don'ts that every guest shares with me. And finally, you will also get the opportunity to ask our future guests one question in advance. You can sign up for this newsletter on gtimpact.com. The second thing you can do to be super helpful is to recommend this podcast. For that, you can write a review on Apple Podcasts and share the podcast with your friends, other entrepreneurs, and people trying to build a sustainable future. That way, we can all learn together and work on a brighter future for us, our children, and our planet. Thank you very much, and see you next week for the next episode. Have a nice day.